This is Clarence Austin on Friday, May 3rd, for the Teach Now Module 8. I'm sitting here with the most esteemed, my mentor, Mr. Leroy Jenkins, career educator, and he's going to give me feedback on a lesson that I did today on Mesoamericans.
All right. Well, Clarence, I got a chance to see your fourth period class. That's my planning period. And you were having your students to investigate the Mayan and Olmec complex civilizations. So I stayed for about 15 minutes. So this is the information that I saw. I always enjoy going to your classes because you allow students to interact and respond to things that other students have responded. And I think that's important because of the fact that it's important because of the fact that we want kids to make sure that they hear other perspectives. And you always ask students to respond to what another student has said. And it's twofold. It gets them to pay attention to what other people have to say. And it also gets them to consider another, again, perspective to something that they may not have thought about. And that's always one of the good things that I always see when I come to your class. I always enjoy the fact that you have your high flyers and medium students and students who are maybe not at that point working together in groups. And that appears to have worked throughout your entire school year because they know what to do, they know what's expected, and then they act appropriately. So I think you allow people to sort of pull the best from each other and the groups, and I think that's a good thing. One of the things that I might um, caution you is that when you have students read, you know, let the student know in advance that you'd like it for them to read so that they can at least have 30 seconds to sort of proofread what they're about to say. And if there are any words that they may not be able to pronounce, they have an opportunity to do that. Sometimes kids get embarrassed when they can't really pronounce a word because they've never seen it, but it does give them a chance to at least engage with whatever you're trying to get them to do. And then it will give you an opportunity to make sure that you can clarify the pronunciation or mispronunciation of words and that kind of thing. There was a student, and I know that you had told to move to a different section, but for whatever reason, she chose not to do that. Maybe she knew something you didn't know. But in any event, you came over there, but you didn't sort of address that issue. And I think sometimes with students, we have to address it a second time for them to know that we're serious about a matter. So that was probably one of the things I might have gone back to her as quietly as you did the first time to say, by the way, I noticed that you didn't move, and I need for you to move to where you can be a participant of this particular process. Because I think because there was no one at her table, then she felt that she wasn't responsible for what needed to be done. And she would have used that to her advantage later on. Oh, you didn't put me anywhere, so I didn't know how I was supposed to work. So I think if you would address that the second time, that would be good. Also, make sure that you target some other students that you didn't target. You targeted students, and I saw names on your lesson plan as to who you were going to call and that kind of thing. So they were prepared from that standpoint. But other kids who may not necessarily feel that you're going to call on them may remove themselves from what's going on. So sometimes you might end up calling someone that you know you haven't called on in a couple of lessons, just to sort of get them back into the fold, so to speak. That's important to do. I wasn't there for the writing aspect, and I'm sure that you probably did that later on in the lesson. But I saw the conversation, and I saw the class discussion on the Mesoamerican theme, and I think that was important. I didn't know whether you did some artwork, and I think that you were. They were supposed to write a poem, and they were supposed to create some sort of image based on their particular poem. So I think that's definitely higher order because sometimes it's symbols that they can use, and then they're supposed to explain those symbols to other individuals. And if you're able to explain a symbol that is associated with a group of people or an ethnicity, I think that's definitely higher order thinking. So I see that you use a great deal of time within the class, and you don't waste a lot of time. I'm not one of those 30-second individuals, although I probably could learn from you to be able to do that. But timing is one of the things that I have not mastered, even in my 20-plus years. I sort of let the tempo of the class sort of just dictate, what's going on. So sometimes I'm a little bit lengthy when I should be maybe short and to the point. But I do, I admire your use of time and how you manipulate time through the class, so it doesn't seem as if there's a lot of time being wasted. And again, just how do we get every student involved in what we're trying to do? And I think that's the problem that we as teachers have, because students can pretend to be busy, pretend to be doing the work, and sometimes they miss out because we haven't, called on them to do X, Y, Z. But that I think is beneficial with regard to that. I think I've sort of hit on everything that I saw during the time period that I was there. Are there questions that you have for me?
No. You mentioned make sure I call on the students in advance.
Right.
So I will make sure that I try to touch those students
Earlier. Right.
and let them know.
Exactly.
And I'll also try to involve more, students that haven't called.
Exactly. And those students that you really haven't heard from within that week. Just to make sure that they are part of what you're trying to do.
Yes.
I think that's important.
All right.
Yep.
All right.